Okay, I am actually crazy. I saw this augment and I considered not taking it, by the way. I literally considered not taking it. I'm giga bad.
Welcome back to another Alvado video. In today's video, we're going to be watching a game played by Dishsoap. Dishsoap was sitting at around the rank 2 spot, but then he lost a couple games, and he's currently sitting at 7th. But the thing is that a lot of these high-level players are competing in Day 3 of the Corrupted Cup, a tournament that's happening this weekend. And what do you often do when you're trying to learn the game of TFT? You try new things, and when you try new things, you start losing games. For Day 3 of the Corrupted Cup, I am going to be hosting a watch party in my Discord. If you'd rather watch the tournament with some other people instead of watching it from the streamer's perspective, then you're very welcome to join my Discord and watch along with us. Okay, let's get into this game. So we started Bo, and you already know that his general idea is that, of course, he's just going to be playing some AD flex. You just try and play your strongest board going into stage 4, and then you do some rolling, and you often look to carry like Belveth or Samira that eventually gets you into the late game. But this game is going to be a little bit different. It is a one cost hero augment. So these games are a lot different than what a normal game of TFT entails. Since they did like some balancing for a lot of the hero augments, there actually are some pretty decent ones that you can take. And since he got an econ opener, he's down to just sack his board, and he goes for the GP carry hero augment, Flaming Ricochet. This augment just got buffed. It used to previously do 90%. So what this augment does is that GP, he has like a really strong blast. He just shoots it at whoever he's targeting. And Flaming Ricochet makes it so that he shoots 2 blasts. It hits one of the units and then it kind of ricochets and then hits someone else. Hence the name Flaming Ricochet. And previously it was the Ricochet bounce only did 90% of the original target damage. But they recently buffed GP himself to do more damage, and they buffed this augment to be 100%. So this augment is actually kind of insane if you can get the proper setup. Since also Yuumi is really strong in the meta, a lot of people have figured out that kind of like shell for a comp is just really powerful. So basically how you play this GP comp is you basically just play Yuumi, but instead of putting items on Yuumi, you just put items on GP and you put items on Nyla. He somehow was able to win 2 rounds even though he chose to sack his board. It must have been because he was fighting against other people who were sacking. And let's see what he goes for here. He goes for Chain. Now his immediate idea is that since he's Bo, he's thinking of making Giant Slayer and Titans. But in this game, we're going to see exactly how he chooses to itemize this Gangplank. Since this carry hero augment was never really that strong, you know, a lot of very like serious players haven't considered taking this augment, so this comp hasn't really been optimized. So a lot of people might consider blue buff to be among, you know, one of the best items on GP. The thing is, that's actually kind of a bad item on Gangplank, even though, you know, he has a low mana pool, and you often see people put blue buff on Gangplank, but the main reason why they do that is because they're item holding for, you know, a better blue buff holder down the line, and that's just kind of like who they're carrying. But if you're really trying to commit to like GP 3-star, the main items that you want is either Gunblade or Titans. I mean, either Gunblade or BT, and then you want Titans, and then you want a 3rd damage item. So that could be JG, that could be Rabadons, that could be GS. And then of course you really want Spark or Shiv somewhere in the comp. And the reason why you don't want a mana item on Gangplank is that he's a melee carry. And what often happens, you'll see some fights later when he starts capping out his board, you know, he gets mana through taking damage. And then he just heals it all back. And then, you know, by the time he's healed it all back, he gets like max Titan stacks. He starts dealing more damage. He starts healing more. He starts becoming more tanky. and then it's just really hard to kill him. And you really can't get any of that stuff online if you choose to use blue buff. Because if you have blue buff, then you either have to get rid of your healing item, your damage item, or your sustain item. And you kind of need all three in order to get this comp online. So yeah, so if you ever choose to take this augment, make sure you don't play blue buff. Of course, it's not like the worst item. Like if you have to make it, then you have to. But you might as well just try carrying something else. Okay, we can see the second hero augment of the game here. He goes for component grab bag because he doesn't like how his current items are. There's not really that many things that he could build. And then he picks up this component grab bag and he literally gets like 3 items that make some really he gets 3 components that make some really strong items for him. He's able to finish off the gunblade. He made Spark, and then he made Titans. And of course, he's putting his tank items / like support items on Nyla, because at the end of the day, you basically just play this comp exactly how you play Yuumi. And since he doesn't have like Rel carry hero augment or like Lee Sin carry hero augment, there's essentially no reason to itemize any other unit in this comp outside of Nyla, because Nyla is easily one of like the most important factors for like why this comp succeeds. The whole reason behind why people started swapping from playing Yuumi with mascots and started playing Yuumi with Nyla is just because this Nyla unit you know, is really powerful. In this fight we can kind of see how this Gangplank operates without any mana items. He was taken aggro by that Lulu. The Lulu hit him. He gets like, he maxes out his mana and then it's able for him to cast. You know, he does a lot of damage and then he heals it back up. There's going to be some more fights down the line that I'm going to highlight where he like makes really good use out of the 3 items that he's going to have. Now I'm going to get into about like kind of talking about this comp. I mean, of course it is like the Yuumi shell where you play the 3 supers and the 3 Star Guardians. And the reason why you want the 3 Star Guardians is because, you know, in the Yuumi comp you really benefit from Yuumi and Nyla gaining that extra mana. But now that we're playing around Gangplank, you know, you think it might not be super necessary to play Rel, considering Rel isn't empowering GP in any way. But like I said, you know, this is just the whole point is that this shell is just very powerful. So there's no reason to like fix something that isn't broken. So yeah, he's just gonna go ahead and basically play the exact same units. And as far as like positioning goes, he's basically just making sure that, you know, his Gangplank isn't taking immediate aggro. He's right next to the Nyla. He's always really close to this Ionic Spark. And he also he has a Lee Sin 1 and a Malphite 2, so he's putting his Malphite in the middle and his Lee Sin on the side, so that as soon as they get through the Malphite, it's a lot harder to get to the Nyla because he still only has a Nyla 1. Like you can see here, like you could swap Malphite and Lee Sin in this spot, but he's more okay with GP taking aggro than he is Nyla, so he puts his stronger tank next to Nyla after Malphite dies, he's going to it's a lot more difficult for Malphite to die. He also rolled like a pretty decent amount of gold in the previous round because he saw, I think he had like 7 Gangplanks, and if he just had 7 Gangplanks he wouldn't have kept rolling. But the thing is, I think he had like Yuumi pair, Malphite pair, Rel pair, and Nyla pair, so that's what was the main decision behind choosing to continue rerolling. And then he ended up hitting Gangplank 3. And then now, since he's hit Gangplank 3, he's okay with pushing levels. Here we can see the final augment of the game. Start level max Celestial Blessing Mascot Crest. He was very down to take Celestial Blessing, but what he said in this spot was, if I ever just get Battle Mage or Jeweled Lotus, then it basically guarantees his first place. So he was down to reroll. He was like down to just risk it because yeah, like the power of both of those augments would just be like insane. Doesn't hit either of those and ends up hitting Big Friend, which you know, still just as good. Definitely not as strong as like Jeweled Lotus or Battle Mage in his spot, but Big Friend is of course like really strong because, again, since Gangplank is like a melee carry, it's not only like a bunch of frontline units that are benefiting from the damage resistance. If he can get big friend value on Gangplank as well, then that's going to, make his team that much stronger, because at the end of the day, all you want to do for a team comp is just empower your carry. Now, he doesn't have any units above 1600 HP, which is the big friend threshold to big friend Gangplank right now, but Gangplank has more XP, or I mean, he has more than 1600 health. So he's giving everyone around him big friend. Now, you just have to watch this fight. Like, this Gangplank, just Giga Chad walks straight up to the Lulu. He basically feeds the Lulu mana, but then the Lulu feeds the Gangplank mana. And the Gangplank, you can see again exactly how, like, why these three items are so important. Meaning, like, Titans plus healing plus damage. Because if you have blue buff in that spot, you just don't have enough damage. And then when you don't have enough damage, then you don't heal as much. Omnivamp basically just says you heal for a percentage of the damage that you deal. So you really want to make sure that to get the most benefit out of, your healing, you also want to do as much damage as possible. And yeah, if you have blue buff in that spot, like, yeah, sure, you might be casting, like, slightly more often, but you're not getting, like, those, like, massive one-shots that is just, like, healing you, like, all the way back to full. One thing that Dishsoap pointed out is that there were 5 rerollers in this lobby. Him rerolling Gangplank, another player rerolling Lux, 2 Lulu rerollers, and then a Talon and Silas reroller. And I think 4 out of the 5 of those players, or no, I think 3 out of the 5 of those players ended up going top 4, and 2 people that were going fast 8 in a 1-cost hero augment lobby went and bought 4. Like, the J Hovo and the CCXD guy were not playing around their hero augment, or they weren't, like, rerolling it. They were just going fast 8, trying to play, like, Belveth or Samira, and yeah, they basically just died out. The tempo of lobbies, when you're shown, like, triple 1-cost hero augment, it massively spiked because of how many people are, spiking their boards on, like, early or late stage 3. Like, around stage 3, when people start, getting their 3-cost carries, or their 3-star carries, then you start taking some massive losses. Yeah, like late stage 3, early stage 4, if you're not able to stabilize, making it that much more difficult to make it to yeah, like a situation where you can somehow stabilize yourself. And even though that, hero augments, I wouldn't say are necessarily my favorite mechanic. I don't think I'm, like, the only one to share that sentiment. I do think that it is kind of interesting that, in previous sets, if you depended on climbing because you just knew how to reroll, this one strong reroll comp, whether it's, like, 1-cost or 2-cost, and then because you just had very specific items that were good for that comp, you could just hard force it every game. This aspect of comps only being enabled by their specific hero augment make it so, that isn't so true in this set. You really need, like, if you're going to be carrying Lulu, you really want that Growth Spurt hero augment. You already know for a fact that the person playing, like, Talon Silas, if he doesn't have the Silas carry hero augment in this spot, his his comp is a lot worse. And then simultaneously, the other thing that Dishsoap was mentioning is that if you are rerolling 1-cost, there's so many players that are taking 1-cost units out of the pool, so it makes, everyone that's rerolling 1-costs a lot easier to hit their units. I believe there's 22, or no, there's 29. There's 29 1-costs in the pool. If Dishsoap is holding 9 Gangplanks, and, someone's holding 9 Lulus, and you're rerolling for Talon and Silas, then it just becomes a lot easier for you to be able to hit those units. There's not really too much that happens for this game, so I'm just going to skip into the last fight. Okay, here we are. He basically just, any more items that he gets, he just put on Yumi, and then he kind of is like, turned his comp into like a, you know, the normal Yumi Nyla board. And then he's 67 HP, his opponent is 13. His opponent ended up getting a Riven 3 this round, and since Dishsoap had so much money, he just said, screw it, I'm just gonna send it for Nyla 3. He rolled all of his gold, hit Nyla 3, and now he really like pressures his opponent into winning. I mean, his opponent had literally 0 gold. It'd be so hard for his opponent to somehow win from that spot. So instead of greeting all of his money and waiting until the very last round, he kind of suffocates his opponent by also making the decision to roll all of his gold there. Yeah, pretty different type of game TFT is when you get a 1-cost hero augments. I do think that it is good that you have 4-cost rerolls so that you don't get more dogged, because a lot of times, you know, people did go for a lot of reroll comps previously, but they often went for like reroll comps that just were not that good. So now that reroll comps are more balanced and that you have enough options where you can almost always guarantee hit something that you want, if it's 1-1-1, then it doesn't feel as bad going bot 4 for these 1-cost like hero augment games. Hopefully you learned something from this video. Like the video if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.